What's up, guys? It's F2P here. As you can see, I am on the tutorial island with a freshly made character because I am starting a new Zero to Hero series. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the concept of Zero to Heroes, basically it's where you take a new character and you try to hit premium with it as fast as possible, and you try to get into the juicy PvP content as fast as possible. So the point of a series like this is to provide some up-to-date new player content for 2021, as well as providing some entertaining content for experienced players to watch. By the way, I know a lot of experienced players probably feel like they've beat the game already on their main accounts. So if you want to join us for these Zero to Hero adventures, please feel free. And I'll be doing everything on stream. Just hop over to my stream, twitch.tv/lbnppu. The link will be in the descriptions. And we'll do this together. Now, when I started this little series, I was doing it together with Beast1K, another streamer. And you can see him in my party right now. And by the way, if you see a character in game named F2P, that's not me. That's actually Beast1K. And if you see a Beast69K in game, that's not Beast. That's actually me. We're confusing our viewers. We're memeing each other with our names. And as you can see, we're doing a solo dungeon right now together. This is a Black Zone T5 solo dungeon, and um, our goal here is to try to hit that point where we can meet the gear requirement for hunter corrupted dungeons, right? So go from solo dungeons to hunter corrupted dungeons, and then to stalker corrupted dungeons. And then in Stalker Corrupted Dungeons, I am just gonna stay in Stalker. I'm gonna farm for premium in Stalker. Now, initially, I actually wanted to do everything without doing Corrupted Dungeons. Like, I wanted to do everything the old school way, just open world and solo dungeons and, hidden treasures and all that. But I very quickly realized that that is just an awful idea, because in 2021, man, solo dungeons are just so slow compared to corrupted dungeons, and there's really no reason to not do corrupted dungeons for us. So I changed my mind about that real quick, and I decided to just go for this route, like solo dungeons at first, and as soon as I can do hunters, I'm doing hunters, and as soon as I can do stalkers, I'm doing stalkers. So it took me just a bit over an hour to get to the point where I can actually enter Hunter Dungeons. And for Hunter Dungeons, the build that I picked was One-Handed Spear, Torch, Demon Helmet, Stalker Jacket, and Soldier Boots, and Theffer Cape. And the reason for this build is because later I'm gonna I wanted Spear to be my first weapon tree, because I think it's like the best tree to pick for like new players right now, because the right spear for every type, there's a right spear for every type of content, and because spears are just like really strong in the corrupted dungeons meta right now. I actually changed my mind about the spear later, but initially what I was thinking is, okay, I'm gonna do Stalker Jacket. It's gonna be good initially because you can use it with the inner focus to get a lot of damage. I'm gonna do Demon Helmet to silence the enemy, so I can do the full damage with Stalker Jacket, right? And then later on, I can transition my Stalker Jacket into Assassin Jacket. I can transition my Demon Helmet into Helmet of Valor, and I can transition my Soldier Boots into Royal Boots, right? So it'll be basically the meta build. Um, but like a hour or so into playing this build, I just didn't really want to play spears anymore, and I just changed my mind and I just went for playing Black Hands instead. But before I made the switch to the Black Hands, I did a couple of non-lethal Hellgates with Beast1K, aka F2P, just to compare the difference in loot between non-lethal Hellgates and Hunter Corrupted Dungeons, and we kind of decided that non-lethal Hellgates aren't actually worth doing, so I went back to Hunter Corrupted Dungeons. And when I went back to Hunters, I actually did a few with one shot pike first, um, because I was thinking like, okay, I can't play the regular spear build yet because of no impaler, so maybe I can play one shot pike until I get impaler and harpoon unlocked. But I don't know why really, but I just felt like playing black hands, right? So after I did like maybe two of these, I was just like, okay, let me just stop. I'm gonna go play black hands. And when I was in Hunter Corrupted Dungeons, I don't know why it's like this, but there were so many rats in there. And even like the people with PvP builds on, like those guys playing a one-shot pike build, they just didn't want to PvP and they just wanted a rat. Not really sure why. It's Hunter Dungeons, it's non-lethal, so why y'all ratting in here? So after I decided to make the switch, I basically just used the little level 1 tomes, the non-tradable tomes, that I got from doing these Hunter Corrupted dungeons to tome up my daggers to the point where I can equip a tier 4 Black Hands. And the Black Hands build that I chose was a hit and run Black Hands, right? So it's kind of similar to I'm sure you guys have all seen Black Hands players play this build. It's Black Hands with Mage Cow, Assassin Jacket, and I think most people are on Royal Boots, but some people are on Royal Sandals, and then Theffer Cape. But my little twist to this build is I'm running Stalker Hood instead, and I'm using Royal Sandals. Now, once I started playing Black Hands, I quickly realized that Black Hands was also a terrible choice for a 0-2 hero because it kind of requires you to have Shadow Edge at least to like really play this build effectively. And without Shadow Edge, I had to play on Dash. Now, of course, these are Zero Infamy Stalker dungeons, so down here nobody really plays meta builds, and playing Black Hands, playing hit and run Black Hands with Dash was actually not an issue. But once I got a little infamy and I started getting like matched up with people that wanted to play the meta builds, people on like Trinity Spears, Broadswords, I even fought a few Hallow Falls. Like playing against those people without Shadow Edge on a hit and run Black Hands build is actually just such a pain in the ass. So yeah, I would recommend Black Hands either if it's zero spec and zero mastery, and like looking back, like if I really wanted to do 0-2 hero like super efficiently, I would not have picked Spear. I would not have picked Black Hands. I probably would have started with regular bow, right? Because like mastery level 3, you get frost shot, and that's literally all you need for regular bows. Broadsword is probably not bad for that either, right? Because you can win a lot of matchups with just Iron Will, and Iron Will is also like a very early unlock. But I chose the Black Hand, and I decided to just stick to it. Now, let me explain my build a little bit. So it's pretty meta now for people to run like hit and run Black Hands with a Mage Cow, and usually they'll have Royal Boots too instead of Royal Sandals. But I chose so first of all, I chose the Stalker Hood instead of Mage Cow because Stalker Hood has a much shorter cooldown. It's 15-second cooldown, so you have it every time your E is up, and also because it has this utility on it that pulls people out of stealth, right? So if you are facing another Black Hands player, down in Stalker Corrupted Dungeons, a lot of people are playing my Hellion Shoe version of Black Hands, right? And that build is like so old and so useless nowadays, but people are still playing it. And the Hunter and the Stalker Hood is super good against them because when they go into Hellion Shoe, you can just pull them out of stealth with your Stalker Hood, and then you punch them with your E, and then you dash the other way, and they can't engage on you. They can't do damage to you. Stalker Hood is also really good against Assassin Jackets, and there are a lot of people using Assassin Jacket right now in their builds. For example, most Warble players would use Assassin Jackets, most Spear players would use Assassin Jackets, and they would default to the Stealth skill. And other Black Hands players, obviously. the hit and run one hit mace players would also use assassin jackets, and they will also default to ambush on their chest skill. So yeah, like against all these players that want to use assassin jacket, usually they like when you go hard engage on them, when you turn on your boots and you run at them, if you catch up to them, they'll hit assassin jacket and they'll wait out your boots, right? So now with Stalker Hood, if you catch up to them and they go into stealth, you can just hit your Stalker Hood, get that damage buff, pull them out of stealth, and then hit them with your E and then run away. Right, so against those people, Stalker Hood is a direct counter, and against other builds, I just spam Stalker Hood every time before I go in. I do Stalker Hood first, and then I turn on my boots, I rush in there, and I hit them with my E, and I run the other way. Right, and then I just wait for cooldowns and I do it again. That's the whole idea of the hit and run blackhands, right? You go in there, you hit your E, you run the other way. And if you do this a couple of times to people, they would, you drop their health to below 50%, and then you can use the other utility on your helmet, which is the big armor pierce. If you hit someone with your helmet that's below half health, you make them lose a crap load of armor, so the second hit on your black hands will like delete people. And by the way, guys, like we did some great science on the stream. We tested the damage difference between the first hit of Blackhand's E and the second hit of Blackhand's E. And the bulk of the damage on the Blackhand's E is the physical damage. It's not the true damage. So having the armor pierce on the helmet and then hitting your E actually makes a huge difference. Now, in the current meta, I think for a lot of people, when I show them a new build, the first question they're gonna ask me is probably, can this build kill a healer? And no, this build cannot kill a healer. Like maybe you can kill a healer if you get lucky or if they're just bad, and maybe like you can cheese them on traps because you do have a knockback in your E. And then if you have the mastery for it, then you do have a stun on the Shadow Edge. So you could potentially outplay them on mobs or something, but it's really like it's really hard, right? Because most healer builds, like if you're playing nature healer, they can have cleanse on their W, so your stun doesn't really do anything, right? You knock them onto mobs, they just get cleanse, and then they just run away from the mobs. If you're fighting a Hallow Fall, you knock them onto the mobs, they just iframe away, and they're not gonna die to the mobs. Like Blackhand's E is basically like the worst thing to use against kiting builds, and healers, by the way, do categorize as kiting builds. And um, against healers, you want to play builds that you can like stick on top of them and just like do consistent damage to them with, right? So if you're gonna take a Blackhands versus healer fight, just make sure that when you use your E on them, you don't eat them away from you, you eat them into a wall instead. And if you punch them into a wall, then they're not going anywhere and you'll still be on top of them, and that way you're not like helping them kite you. And the same thing goes for any kind of kiting builds, really, like war bows, baton bows, anything like that. You just want to eat them into walls so you don't help them open gap. And against any kind of high damage brawling builds like Trinity Spears, Broadswords, Double Mercenary Jacket Curse, it will be the other way around. You would want to knock them as far away from you as possible. So, knock them all the way down the hallway. Don't knock them into a wall, and also make sure you're not knocking them into your kite path. A lot of times people will like be running away, and they will just turn around, land a shadow edge, and immediately E, and they would knock the enemy in a direction that's like where they want to go, and then they will end up being stuck between the enemy and a bunch of mobs or a laser trap or something. Right, so just make sure that when you Shadow Edge and E, you're not putting them in your kite path. And if you are playing against a high damage brawling build, when they pop a boot and hard engage on you, just go into your assassin jacket and wait out their boots. That's the reason why we run assassin jacket. It's not for the damage buff, it's just so that people can't hard engage on you. right? So you're basically playing this build exactly like a Tomb Hammer or exactly like a one-handed mace would, right? You just knock people away, you do damage to them, you knock people away, and then you run the other direction. Now, usually with one-handed mace, their disengage will be worse than yours. They have to rely on the helmet to disengage, but you already have a knockback built into your E, so you don't need the helmet, right? That's why I run the damage on the helmet. And then finally, there's the poison usage. So you might think that the best way to use poison is to just throw it at them at the beginning to like pierce their armor, but a lot of the times that's not really gonna be ideal. A lot of the times when you do a little damage to people, they will realize what you're doing. They'll realize that you're running a hit and run build. So if you do a little bit of damage to them, they will start running the other direction and they will try to leave combat. And the optimal time to use poison is actually when they try to leave combat and you throw at them just to keep them in combat. Now, if they're being dumb and they don't try to leave combat after the first time you burst them, then you can use your poison to armor shred them on the second burst. So usually, if you are playing against somebody that's kind of dumb and they don't try to leave combat, the first time you engage, you use boots, you use helmet, you use dash for all the damage buffs, and you hit E. And then on the second engage, you could just finish him off if you hit poison, right? Maybe a few Qs and autos to bring them below half, and then Stalker Hood and hit E, and they should just die from that. Usually, though, it takes a little bit longer than that. Usually, I mean, at Zero Infamy, you will fight people that just don't know what's going on, right? So they don't try to leave combat and you get to just two burst them. But if you are even just like slightly up there, like even if you just have like 200k infamy, you'll find people that will try to leave combat and get a reset if you land one burst on them, right? So that's why the poison after the burst is actually important to keep them in combat. So this whole entire process of going from Tutorial Island to being able to buy premium took me about 17 hours. Now, this wasn't like a straight path for me, right? Because I did start out with a spear and I did um, kind of like lose interest in the spear and then like went for pike for a little bit. Like I realized the spear was not being like optimal, so I went for the pike for a little bit and then I lost interest in the pike and I decided to just go for black hands. And even when I chose a build to stick with, like it wasn't like the most optimal build, right? Like regular bow would have been a lot easier to do this with because I had to play with dash on black hands for hit and run, and shadow edge would have made this a lot easier. And I also did choose a build that couldn't fight like everything that's in the meta. Like if I chose regular bow, I would be able to fight healers. But I'm on black hands, it's not really the best for fighting healers. And I did get matched up a few times against healers, and I died once to a Hallow Fall. And I died a total of 6 times on this little journey, and some of these deaths could have been avoided. Like that one time I chose to fight a portal ganker that had 300 IP on me, and I was winning until he wasn't alone anymore. And every time I die, I will lose about 300k-ish silver, somewhere between like 3 to 400k silver using this build. So deaths definitely do set you back a bit. And some of these deaths, like the one where I died to the Hallowfall, I really couldn't do anything about it, because I'm playing this hit and run build into a full sustain build, and I couldn't get away from them either, right? Like I fought against some other healers and I killed a couple of them because they were like low mobility healers, but against the Hallowfall, they have just as much mobility as I do, so once the fight starts, there's no way for me to reset, and there's no way for me to kill them either because they can kite me and they can heal, right? So I'm playing this hit and run build into a full sustain build. There's just basically just no way I can kill him. Now, uh, if I did go for the regular bow as my starting weapon, then I think like there'll be no death that I couldn't just avoid because frost shot is pretty OP as a mobility skill. You can just run away and break crystals if you can't win a fight. And really, like, what kind of fight should I not be able to win as a double mercenary jacket regular bow in soccer dungeons, right? Like, I'm pretty sure if I went for that with the double mercenary jacket regular bow, I could just kill anything that's in stalker dungeons. So basically, the bottom line is this whole process could have been a lot more efficient if I just went for a different weapon tree, or if I just went for a straight path instead of going for a spear, and then maybe not a spear, let's do a pike, and then maybe not a pike, let's do blackhand. And another thing to take away from all this is that I do recommend for new players to buy their first month of premium. Okay, so I did this in 17 hours with no money spent because I'm a experienced player, right? I know like what to do to get to that point where I can just buy premium with in-game silver. And if you are a new player, you'll probably hit some curbs here and there. You'll probably, hit some setbacks, and it's just not worth it to like spend all that effort into like grinding for silver and then to spend it all at the end on premium. But that said, if you are like a potential new player and you're looking at this and wondering, is it really possible to play this game fully free to play? Well, I just showed you it's totally possible. It's just that when you spend that first hard-earned 9 mil silver on premium, it's gonna set you back a bit, right? It's gonna feel like, oh, I grinded so hard for the silver and now I had to buy premium with it. So, uh, you will be like better off if you just buy premium for the first month, and then after that, you'll have no issue buying premium every month with in-game silver. Also, if you are a new player that's struggling to make enough in-game silver to buy premium with right now, I hope this shows you how easy it is. I hope, like, if you're doing anything that's, I don't know, like gathering, crafting, dungeons, ratting corrupted dungeons, if you're doing any of those things right now just so you can buy premium, I hope this shows you how easy it is to just PvP and buy premium, right? So hopefully after seeing this, you'll be encouraged to leave your save content and just do some PvP and make the easy premium. And if you are an experienced player who feels like, you've already beaten the game, like there's nothing really to do in Albion for you anymore, come do some Zero to Heroes with us. I will be doing this again and again and again on different weapon trees. So, come join me for the journey. And just in case you haven't heard me say at the beginning of the video, it's twitch.tv/lbnppew. Hope I'll see you guys there.